A woman and her husband lived together for 40 years, until one day, the FBI revealed her husband's true identity. Bobby and Cheryl were a happily married couple for many years. They shared countless memories together, but that's not what happened. One afternoon, Cheryl was making tea. Suddenly, a group of policemen knocked on her door. Curious, she opened the door. The police broke into her home without explanation. Quickly went upstairs. Bobby was still sleeping. The police asked him his real name. Cheryl was confused by the situation at hand. She tried desperately to hear Bobby's answer, but all she could hear was a faint grunt. At that moment, Bobby was handcuffed, and a happy life was finally destroyed. Cheryl was very confused, because her husband hadn't been involved in any criminal activity. In fact, Bobby's arrest would shock the world. Follow me. Find out what happened next, in Part 2.
Here's how long animals can hold their breath, except the numbers slowly get more and more outrageous. Hippos, about 5 minutes. Kinda disappointing that the closest thing to an actual land whale taps out that fast, and that's not me fast shaming them, it's scientifically accurate. Plus real ones know. There ain't a whole lot to shame. Dolphins, about 10 minutes. Again, pretty mid for something that has to swim for a living. Sea lions, up to 20 minutes. Fun fact, sea lions are actually closer to being sea bears, the more you know. Emperor penguins, just under half an hour, and to do that, they slow their heart rate down to 3 beats per minute, and they have more hemoglobin than we do. Here's where it starts to get weird. Sloth, 40 minutes. To be fair, their ancestor was a giant marine sloth, but the animal that only ever goes swimming by accident, lasting longer than something that breathes air but has an address in the ocean, is kinda wild. Sperm whales, 2 hours. And it'd probably be longer if they didn't have to run fades with giant squids down there. Sea turtles, 5 to 7 hours, and most of that's while they're asleep. And yeah, sea turtles do breathe air. I can't believe I let myself get into an argument over that. Sea snakes, for some, 8 hours. Although they low-key cheat by being able to breathe through their skin. Spiders, 40 hours. In an experiment, a wolf spider came back to life after 40 hours under by going into a state of suspended animation. Basically, it's like going into the ultimate power save mode while also hitting snooze on death. That's not even the last animal here. Scorpions, 6 days. The more you know.
But it exploded, and they were both found dead.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Hundreds of thousands of bodies have either been lost or buried at sea, so every time you swim in the ocean, you're basically bathing in a graveyard. Chainsaws were originally invented for childbirth. Female mummies in ancient Egypt were always decomposed more than the male ones, and this is because the male bodies were embalmed a lot sooner while the female bodies were kept at the family home until they started to decompose a little bit. And this was to prevent people from having sex with the dead female bodies. Vlad the Impaler was called this because he would place his enemies ass first on pointed poles that would slowly skewer them to death. Fatal familial insomnia is a disease where a person literally cannot go to sleep no matter what they take or what they do. The symptoms get progressively worse until they die of exhaustion. And for the last one, you might want to look up who invented blow-up dolls. There was a woman in the 18th century named Mary Toft who shoved dead rabbits inside of her and later acted as if she gave birth to them. And the doctors actually believed her until one of them discovered corn inside one of the rabbits' stomachs.
What is a disturbing fact you wish you could unlearn?
I'm giving y'all a chance to scroll, especially if you have kids, especially if you have a baby. Oh wait, you're still here? Alright man, don't blame me, this is on you. If there's one animal you should be afraid of in this world, it's not lions, tigers, bears, sharks, it's none of that. It's actually the one that looks the most like us. I don't care who you think you are, a chimp will really tear your arm off and beat you over the head with it. And chimps will actively hunt other animals like bush babies and red colobus monkeys. We've even seen them murk small antelope and warthogs. But the disturbing part isn't that they hunt monkeys and eat them. This is your last chance, you can still scroll. Because the thing is that apparently chimps can't tell the difference between the monkeys they hunt and human babies. Or they can and they just don't care. There have been cases of gangs of chimpanzees snatching, murking, and eating human children. In 2002 in JohnBenet National Park in Tanzania, a 14-month-old baby was kidnapped by an adult male chimp. You can probably guess what went down, but the result was one less baby and one partially fed chimp. Partially because the chimp started eating, but apparently got bored and left the past tense body for researchers to find. Why? Yeah, that's the thing with psychopaths. There is no why. Moral of this video? Yeah, this picture hit a little different now, don't it?
Terrifying true facts that will keep you up at night, Part 4. Decapitation doesn't always immediately work. There have been some reports of humans living up to 30 seconds after their heads have been removed from their bodies. And there was a chicken in the 1940s named Mike who lived for over a year without his head. There is a whale called 52 Blue which sings at such a high frequency that it is unable to communicate with the rest of its species, making it the loneliest animal on Earth and dooming it to die alone. And finally, mummies weren't actually rare until the late 16th century, when the British decided to start buying mummies to grind up into paint. Oh, and they also started eating them, believing them to have special medical properties. Tag a friend if you're watching this at night, and follow for more.
After police received this disturbing phone call, they found a horrific scene. Lily James was a 21-year-old student and water polo coach from New South Wales. She went to Andrews Cathedral School and was a vibrant and outgoing girl. One of her friends described her as the nicest, kindest girl. She started dating fellow sports coach Paul Thiessen. She was dating him for around 5 weeks before her tragic death. Paul was 24 and was a former student of the same school. Lily had decided that she didn't wish to continue dating Paul and asked to just be friends. However, alarm bells would ring for her family when she didn't return home on the 25th of October 2023. That evening, police received a very disturbing call. It was almost midnight and Paul had phoned police to report a body at the school. He apparently informed them that it needed to be investigated. Police rushed to the scene and found Lily's body in the school toilets. They deemed her death to be homicide and she'd been beaten with a hammer so badly she was unrecognisable. The next day they identified her body officially and they would begin the process of searching for evidence. CCTV captured Lily walking into the bathroom of the school that night at 7 p.m. Paul followed her into the bathroom and she was never seen alive again. Paul left the bathroom and it was discovered that he used Lily's phone to text her dad asking for a lift. Paul then drove away, dumping a backpack and the murder weapon. Chillingly, it would later be determined that Paul had actually been to a shop to buy a hammer the day of the murder, showing premeditation. After placing the disturbing 911 call, Paul vanished. A day later, a huge search began of the local area. On the 27th of October, another body was found. This time it was Paul. He'd taken his own life after taking Lily's. A group of tradesmen had spotted his body from a distance and he was identified through fingerprints. Lily's family have set up a GoFundMe in her memory.
A 9-year-old boy goes to his twin brother's grave every day to tell him about school, even though they'd never met. Turns out the boy and his brother were identical twins. The brother died before he was born of twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. But then something strange happened. Ever since the boy was born, he's had a strong bond with his dead brother. There were endless stories to tell. He was devastated by his brother's death. When he was only a few years old, he used to go to his brother's grave alone. He would tell him what had happened to him recently. He would bring his brother flowers. He would bring him snacks. This worried his parents. But one day, the boy went to school as usual, to visit his brother's grave. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. Find out what happened next in part 2.
Cannibal killer Austin Harrop has just been found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity. If you don't know, in 2016, Austin had just finished up his freshman year at Florida State, and on August 16th, he was out to dinner with his family when he suddenly got up and left without saying why. And here you can see him on security footage leaving the restaurant just after 8 p.m. He walked more than 3 miles before coming across the residence of John and Michelle Stevens, who were just enjoying the night and having a beer in their garage. And here you can see John in the garage that he'd practically transformed into a hangout for himself and his wife. But before John or Michelle could even realize what was happening, a neighbor heard awful screams coming from the driveway. Authorities responded to the scene to find 2 dead bodies and Austin attempting to eat the face of one of his victims. Authorities almost had to kill Austin because he wouldn't stop, and after his arrest he claimed to have no memory of the murders or why he did it. In previous weeks he reportedly went from a normal outgoing college student to believing he was half animal and half man. Austin had actually moved his bed into their family's garage to avoid demons and would patrol the house at night instead of sleeping. At the time, he had just trace amounts of marijuana and alcohol in his system, and the prosecution actually agreed that he was truly in a psychotic episode at the time of the attack.
A father in Boulder, Colorado has come forward with a bombshell he thinks may be the key to solving the JohnBenet Ramsey case. What he says, in 1997, only 9 months after JohnBenet Ramsey was found murdered in her own home, his daughter was awoken in the middle of the night. She was only 12 years old at the time. A masked man was standing over her. She was essayed before her mother, hearing the commotion, came into the bedroom and scared the man out the window. There are very eerie similarities within this case. Most notably, this girl knew JohnBenet Ramsey. They had been in the same social circles. She lived less than 2 miles away, and this attack happened 9 months after JohnBenet Ramsey's murder. The father, frustrated with police lack of response within the case, hires his own private investigator who finds similar cigarette butts that were found both outside the Ramsey's home and the place where the attack took place. Could this be the key to solving the case?
This lady is one of the luckiest people in America. She accidentally threw out a scratch-off lottery card worth $1 million, and it was found by the owners of the store where she bought the card. Now, they could have kept it for themselves, but as Amber Cagliano explains, they had a different idea.
This woman just won $1 million thanks to a very honest family. Leah Fiega was playing the scratch-off lottery like this. She thought she lost. She didn't even bother scratching off all the numbers. So she gave the ticket back to the owner and walked out of the convenience store. What happened next is pretty amazing. The owner finished scratching off the numbers. And guess what? It was $1 million winner.
After I saw 1 million, I was dancing at the store.
Abhishek, whose family owns the store in Springfield, Massachusetts, says he immediately started dreaming about how he would spend the money.
The first thing that came in my mind was, I want to buy a Tesla.
But he says after a call with his grandparents in India, where they are struggling with a deadly wave of COVID cases, he knew what he needed to do.
My grandma said, no, we don't have to keep that ticket. You know who the ticket is for? We should give it back to them.
Abhi says he recognized Leah as a regular customer. He drove to her office and convinced her to return to the store where she was handed back the $1 million ticket.
She started crying like a baby. She freaked out. She can't even imagine like we did that to her. She was like, I have never saw such a honest people like you in my life.
Let's talk about the terrifying lore surrounding the various creatures of the horror game Iron Lung. It's important to start with the fact that Iron Lung takes place entirely underneath the surface of a blood ocean on the moon, and this blood ocean is thought to be completely empty. However, it's not empty at all, and the first creature I want to talk about is this one right here. This is the one that burst through your ship at the very end of the game, but he's actually seen much earlier. So it's implied that he follows the path of your submarine through the entire game. Next is the most iconic moment of the game when you first see this eye on your camera. It belongs to a giant whale-like creature, but how do we know that? The giant whale skeletons on the surface of the blood ocean tell us that there might be many of these creatures, and this portal into the void gives us an idea of where they might be coming from.
I ended my mother's life in the worst possible way. I am Isabella Guzman, and I lived with my mother, Yoon Mi-hoy, and my stepfather in Colorado. Since I was little, I was very loved, despite being rebellious and constantly arguing with my mother. Everything was like that until 2013. I had a very strong argument with my mother, in which I even spat in her face. I was very angry with my mother, so much so that I sent her an email threatening her. My mother, out of fear, called the police and my biological father, who talked to me and managed to calm me down, or so they thought. That same night, when my mother came home from work and went into the bathroom, I went in after her and closed the door. I stabbed her 78 times until I ended her life. My stepfather came to the bathroom after hearing the screams and saw blood coming out of the bathroom. But he couldn't get in, so he called the police. When I heard this, I left the bathroom and ran away. But unfortunately, I was caught the next day. I was not sentenced to prison because I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and now I'm in a psychiatric center.
These are videos humans were never meant to see. The video that I'm about to show you is extremely disturbing. This is Kevin Cosgrove's phone call from the 105th floor of the World Trade Center 2. He was trapped on his floor after the World Trade Center got hit by an airplane. You can hear him getting more and more annoyed and frustrated with the dispatcher throughout these few minutes, and it unfortunately ends abruptly when the tower begins to collapse. You hear his last moments of life as he says he's too young to die. This really puts into perspective how scary and terrible 9/11 was. May all the victims rest in peace, and here's the audio clip.
So you can conserve your oxygen, okay? Try to put God to blow you in from the list. It's really bad. It's black. It's arid. Does anybody else want to try it in here? We're young men. We're not ready to die. I'm kidding. How the hell are you going to get my ass down? I need oxygen. They're getting to you. They have a lot of apparatus on the street. It doesn't feel like it, lady. You get them in from all over. Get them in from Jersey. I don't give a shit, Ohio. Okay, so what's your last name? Mine's Cosgrove. I must have called about a dozen times already. Cosgrove. Yeah, my wife thinks I'm all right. I called her and said I was leaving the building. I was fine, and bang. Well, I want to go down here. Cherry. Dead cherry. Dead cherry's next to me. 105. Whose office? John Astro's office. That's where you go. That's the office. We're in John Astro's office. OST. ARU. ARU. Right. That's the office we're in. There's three of us in here. OST. ARU. Hello? Hello? We're looking at the financial center. Three of us, two broken windows. Oh, God! Message number 100.
This is the gruesome case of Linda Spence explained. Linda Spence was working as a financial advisor in Scotland and was reportedly involved in some shady dealings, accepting multiple deposits from elderly people for flats which were never built. In 2010, 27-year-old Linda Spence began to negotiate a deal for what she claimed was a valuable parcel of land near Stansted Airport, and as part of this deal, she produced some handmade bond certificates she claimed were issued by the government of Denmark. She attracted an investment of £80,000 from Colin Coates, a man with something of a reputation for being involved in criminal enterprise. While looking for further investors for her project, she traveled to the United States, where the fraudulent bonds caught the attention of the FBI, and she quickly left the country. Linda's house of cards was beginning to crumble around her when she returned to Scotland, and she ignored repeated attempts at contact from Mr. Coates, who was beginning to be concerned about his investment. Coates then took matters into his own hands by snatching Linda from the streets of Glasgow in April 2011. Coates hired 2 associates to watch Linda while she was held captive. Linda's disappearance was investigated by police, who quickly identified Coates as a person of interest based off their financial dealings. However, Coates denied any involvement in her disappearance, and the investigation appeared to stall. At this point, Linda's family has become aware of her sketchy dealings and maintained hope she had simply just fled the country. However, Coates was eventually betrayed by a witness who became concerned for his life due to his knowledge of the crime and Coates' constant threats to silence him. He then went to the police, naming Coates as her kidnapper, and gave the names of the associates who had guarded Linda during her ordeal. Upon being arrested, the 2 associates agreed to give evidence against Coates in return for reduced sentences. They reported that Linda was kept alive for over 2 weeks, during which time she was humiliated and tortured by Coates. She was tied to a chair and forced to sit in her own waste, had her thumb cut off, her kneecaps shattered with golf clubs, her feet completely crushed, and her hands completely burnt with an iron. Coates' associates both claim they did not witness Linda's eventual murder, but believe that Colin Coates decapitated her and put her body in the boot of his car. In the days after Linda was believed to have been killed, Coates asked a friend to borrow his boat, but was turned down. Colin Coates was found guilty of Linda Spence's murder, but has also denied any involvement. Linda's body has still never been found despite ongoing extensive searches by the police of Scotland. And they say this case will not be closed until Linda is found. This case is absolutely sickening, but Linda Spence did steal $80,000 from a man who was known to be involved in criminal activity. Not saying she deserved what happened to her at all, I'm just saying she messed with the wrong person and got the full consequence of it. Rest in peace to Linda Spence, and I hope her body is found soon.
And today, as a young man, I can begin to pay for that. I can never give back what I've taken. But I hope that this situation doesn't end as tragically as it began, and that someday something positive can come from this tragedy.
Okay, what's going on there?
Can somebody come?
Okay, I need to know what's going on.
I'm sorry.
What's going on?
Can somebody come and put me in handcuffs?
Why?
I just shot my dad.
What?
I just shot my dad. Please.
You just did what to your dad?
I just shot him.
You just shot your dad?
Yes, please.
Okay. Where's your dad?
He's in the bedroom. Please. I don't want to survive. I don't want to. Please. Please.
Okay, what's your name? Okay. And it's... right?
Yes, and my mom's at work.
Your mom's at work?
Just kill me.
Okay. And your dad is in the bedroom?
Yes, I know. I'm sorry.
Where did you shoot your dad? In the head? Where's the gun?
It's in the bedroom.
It's in the bedroom?
Not
You don't
the
have
same
it?
bedroom. No, I don't have it.
It's in the same bedroom? What?
It's in a different bedroom.
Which bedroom is it in?
It's in the bedroom across from his, where we keep the guns. Please, just hurry up.
Okay, I've got people on the way, okay? You do not have the gun, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, where are you?
I'm outside by the truck.
Outside by the truck? What happened?
I don't know.
You don't know what happened? You just shot him? What?
I don't know. I don't know.
This story is so sad, y'all. This is 4-year-old Zaylee Dream Scott. On June 10th, Zaylee tragically passed away after drowning in a pool. Zaylee was supposed to attend a birthday party, and her mother ended up having to work, but the woman who was having the birthday party for her kid said, "That's okay, just drop her off." This wasn't anything super out of the norm because her kids have been over to the house before, and that woman's kids have also been over to her house. Zaylee ended up getting dropped off at the party by her father, and when he dropped her off, he made a point to have floaters on her and told the family do not take them off because she can't swim. At first, the family wanted to believe that this was just a tragic accident, but the medical records are kind of making them think otherwise. The medical records state that her arrest was greater than 20 minutes, but the girl that was watching the kids throwing the party says that there's no way that she was in there for more than 2 minutes. When she called the mother to tell her what had happened, she said that she just ran in to make a couple drinks, but later on told the police that she left a teenager in charge of watching the children. She then changed her story and said that she went inside to prepare fruit and clean dishes and counters and so on. The day that she passed away, the scene was not taped off and security cameras were not pulled. The family watching the kids said that the DVR was broken and they let the kids back in the pool not long after this happened. The doctors say that she was under for so long that her organs were already starting to shut down when she was at the hospital. They also told her that she had irreversible brain death. I wanted to share this story because the mother feels like she's just not getting the justice she deserves. I guess the family that was watching her daughter has connections with the district attorney of that town, and she just feels like there's conflicts of interest in the case. The police still haven't even gotten a statement from her or her husband. This little girl is so beautiful. Prayers go out to her family.